Number 10. Persistence hunting. Picture this. You're craving a burger. Not just any burger, a fresh one. So you lace up your running shoes, jog to the nearest field, and proceed to chase a cow for 8 hours straight until it collapses from heat exhaustion. You then high-five yourself, butcher it on the spot, and carry the spoils home, victorious. Congratulations, you've just performed a persistence hunt, humanity's original and most exhausting Grubhub order. Our ancestors were masters of this. See, while most animals are faster than us in a sprint, humans are the undisputed marathon champions of the animal kingdom. We have a secret weapon: sweating. While a gazelle is running from a lion, it's basically cooking itself from the inside out. It has to stop, pant, and cool down. But humans, we just leak. Our upright posture and glorious full-body sweat glands mean we can shed heat while jogging at a steady, annoying pace. For hours, our ancestors were basically the Terminators of the savannah. Relentless, unstoppable, and probably just as hard to look at after a long day. They'd literally run an animal into a state of heat-induced surrender. They didn't have a finish line, they had dinner. Today, this skill is about as useful as knowing how to send a fax with your mind. The only time we chase anything to the point of exhaustion is the last parking spot at the mall on Black Friday. Your incredible bipedal self-cooling system is now primarily used to jog to the fridge during a commercial break. The modern equivalent of a persistence hunt is refreshing the tracking page for your pizza delivery, watching the little car icon slowly, agonizingly, make its way to your house. A true evolutionary triumph. Number 9. Flint Knapping. Before Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone, there was an innovator named Grug, and Grug's keynote presentation involved hitting 2 rocks together until one of them got sharp. This, my friends, was flint knapping, the original tech industry. For over 2 million years, the peak of human ingenuity was knowing how to smash a piece of flint or obsidian in just the right way to create a blade sharp enough to slice through hide. This wasn't just random smashing either. It was a delicate art, requiring an intimate knowledge of angles, force, and conchoidal fractures, the way certain rocks break in a predictable, curved pattern. A master napper could produce a beautiful, symmetrical spearhead. A novice would produce a pile of useless rock dust and a bloody thumb. This was the absolute foundation of survival. No sharp rock, no cutting meat. No cutting meat, no protein. No protein, no big brain. No big brain. No inventing things like the wheel, or later Twitter, which ironically made us all dumber again. For millennia, your entire worth to the tribe could be measured by the quality of your hand axe. It was your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and your primary survival tool all in one jagged package. Now, your ability to skillfully fracture a silicate-rich cryptocrystalline quartz is, well, it's a hobby for guys with impressive beards on YouTube. If you need something sharp, you don't go looking for flint nodules by the riverbed. You go to Target and buy a ceramic knife that was manufactured by a robot in a factory that's cleaner than your kitchen. Bragging that you can nap your own arrowhead is like bragging that you can churn your own butter. It's neat, I guess, but I can also just buy butter. And it doesn't come with a side of shattered rock fragments. Number 8. Navigating by the stars in a city. You're lost. Your phone is dead. A primal instinct buried deep in your DNA kicks in. You look up at the vast celestial tapestry of the night sky, searching for the familiar comfort of Polaris, the North Star, and you see it. Just kidding. You see the dull orange glow of light pollution, a faint smudge that might be the moon, and the unwavering beacon of a distant Taco Bell sign. Congratulations. You've just discovered that your ancient celestial navigation skills are completely bricked by modern civilization. For thousands of years, the ability to read the stars was a superpower. Sailors could cross entire oceans, caravans could traverse deserts, and lost hunters could find their way home, all by using this giant, glittery map that nature provided for free every night. They knew the constellations like the back of their hand: Orion, the Big Dipper, Cassiopeia. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were life-saving signposts in a world without Google Maps or a friendly, disembodied voice telling you to make a U-turn when possible. Your ancestors could triangulate their position on the globe with a few sticks and a good look at the sky. Today, try to find the North Star in any major city. You'll have better luck finding a parking spot. The sheer amount of artificial light we pump into the atmosphere has rendered this incredible skill almost entirely decorative. It's like having a library of every book ever written, but someone has covered all the pages in glowing graffiti. The only star that reliably guides urban wanderers is the green one on top of a Starbucks. Your brain is hardwired to look up for answers, But all it gets is a notification that the apartment building across the street has its garish lobby lights on again. Number 7. Building a Wattle and Daub hut. Imagine your landlord tells you the rent is due, but instead of wiring money, you have to spend the next 3 weeks weaving a giant basket out of sticks, smearing it with a mixture of wet soil, clay, sand, and animal dung, and then letting it dry into a wall. This is the glamorous world of Wattle and Daub construction, one of the earliest and most widespread building methods in human history. The Wattle is the wooden lattice, and the Daub is the sticky, earthy plaster you slap all over it. For thousands of years, this was how you made a house. It was drafty. It probably smelled a bit weird, and a particularly angry badger could likely claw its way through. But it was home. This skill was a masterclass in using what you had. Got some flexible sticks like hazel or willow? Great, that's your frame. Got dirt? Perfect, that's your insulation and siding. Got a cow? Excellent, its poop is a fantastic binding agent. It was the ultimate DIY project, a testament to human ingenuity and a high tolerance for living inside something made of mud and manure. It was basically a human-sized bird's nest, but with less dignity. Today, the knowledge of how to properly mix daub is a skill reserved for historical reenactors and people who are really committed to their off-the-grid lifestyle. If you told a contractor you wanted a Wattle and Daub extension on your house, they'd look at you like you just asked them to build it out of Legos and old chewing gum. We have drywall, fiberglass insulation, and building codes that generally frown upon cow dung as a primary construction material. Your ancestors built shelters to survive the elements. We build houses to have a place to complain about our Wi-Fi signal. Number 6. Foraging for food in the wild. There was a time when the world was your grocery store. A walk in the woods wasn't just for leisure, it was a shopping trip. Your great-great-great to the nth degree grandmother could look at a patch of weeds and see a salad, a medicine cabinet, and a tasty side dish. She knew that this berry would kill you, this one would give you a stomachache, and this one was perfect with roasted mammoth. This intimate botanical knowledge was the difference between a full belly and a very, very painful death. Every root, leaf, and mushroom was a potential meal or a potential mistake. It was the highest stakes game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo ever played. This skill required a massive mental database. You had to identify hundreds of plants in different seasons, know which parts were edible, and how to prepare them to neutralize toxins. It was a level of botanical expertise that would make a modern-day botanist weep with envy. Our brains evolved to be excellent at pattern recognition, partly so we could tell the difference between a delicious chanterelle and its evil, liver-destroying twin, the jack-o'-lantern mushroom. Now, the most dangerous foraging we do is trying to find the last bag of kale at Whole Foods. Our pattern recognition skills are used to spot a 50% off sticker from across the aisle. If you tried to live off the plants growing in a city park, you'd most likely end up with a stomach full of pesticides, dog pee, and disappointment. We've replaced a deep instinctual knowledge of the natural world with a blind faith in expiration dates and the cheerful, non-threatening packaging of the produce section. The only poisonous plant we worry about is cilantro, and that's just a matter of opinion. Number 5. Oral tradition as data storage. Before hard drives, before the printing press, before even carving things onto clay tablets, humanity had a different way of storing information, sticking it in someone's brain. This was oral tradition, and it was the world's first and squishiest cloud server. Entire histories, genealogies, epic poems, and complex legal codes were passed down from one generation to the next through memorization and recitation. There was always one person in the tribe, the elder or the storyteller, whose job was to be the living, breathing Wikipedia. They didn't just tell fun stories around the campfire. They were the sole backup for the culture's entire operating system. Imagine the pressure. If you, the designated rememberer, forgot a key verse of the creation myth, you might accidentally erase a god from existence. If you misremembered a boundary line in a land treaty, you could start a war. There was no forgot password button. There was no way to look it up. The information's survival depended entirely on your memory, not being corrupted by a bad piece of fish or a distracting squirrel. These people had to train their minds to a degree we can barely comprehend, using mnemonic devices, rhythm, and repetition to lock in terabytes of data. Today, this skill has been so thoroughly obliterated it's almost laughable. Your brain, which once stored the lineage of kings and the saga of heroes, now dedicates that same processing power to remembering a dozen different streaming service passwords, and fails at half of them. We don't memorize epic poems. We save TikToks to our favorites. We've outsourced our memory to our phones. If you ask someone for their spouse's phone number, there's a good chance they'll have to look it up. The grand bard of the ancient world has been replaced by a guy who can't remember his grocery list without an app. Number 4. Tasting dirt. Sometimes survival isn't pretty. Sometimes it's downright gritty. Let's say you're in a desert. You're dehydrated. There's no river, no lake, no helpful cartoon mirage pointing to an oasis. What do? Well, if you were one of our resourceful ancestors, you might start tasting the dirt. Yes, literally. Certain types of soil, their texture, and even their taste could indicate the presence of underground water. A particular kind of damp, dark earth could mean you're close to a source you could dig for. It's the geology of desperation. This wasn't just for finding water. Some cultures practiced geophagy, the intentional eating of earth, to supplement their diet with minerals like iron or calcium, or to soothe an upset stomach. They weren't just eating random handfuls of topsoil. They had a sophisticated, if unappetizing, understanding of which clays and soils were beneficial. They were, in essence, reading the land with their tongue. It was a direct physical connection to their environment, a way of extracting life from the very ground they walked on. Fast forward to today. If you see someone tasting dirt in a public park, you don't think, a savvy survivalist searching for minerals. You think, that person needs immediate medical and psychological attention. Our quest for minerals now involves a trip to the pharmacy for a bottle of multivitamins, not a discerning nibble of the back garden. The only time we analyze soil is when we're trying to figure out why our houseplants are dying. The idea of tasting it for information is about as alien as breathing water. We've gone from being one with the earth to preferring our earth to be neatly contained in a terracotta pot, and definitely not in our mouths. Number 3. Reading animal guts for prophecies. You're a Roman general. A huge battle is tomorrow. You need to know if you're going to win. Do you consult with your top strategists? Do you analyze troop movements? No, that's boring. Instead, you call for the Haruspex. His job is to ceremonially slaughter a sheep, pull out its still steaming liver, and stare at it intently. He's looking for omens. Is the liver a healthy color? Are there any weird spots or blemishes? Does one part of it look vaguely like a tiny victorious eagle? This, my friends, is haruspicy, the art of predicting the future by examining the entrails of a sacrificed animal. For centuries, this was considered a legitimate science. The Etruscans and Romans were obsessed with it. They had complex bronze models of livers, mapped out with different regions corresponding to different gods. A blemish in the Jupiter section was a very bad sign. A healthy-looking gallbladder meant good fortune. Major state decisions, whether to go to war, when to hold an election, could hinge on the state of a sheep's internal organs. It was a bizarre mix of religion, tradition, and wishful thinking, all based on the idea that the gods wrote their daily memos on the insides of livestock. Today, the only time we inspect an animal's liver is if we're a health inspector or an adventurous foodie. If a modern military leader suggested consulting a sheep's spleen to plan a military campaign, he would be laughed out of the Pentagon and into a padded room. We've replaced divination with data analysis, prophecy with probability, and sheep guts with satellite imagery. Basically, we stopped asking the universe for spoilers and started building the technology to peek at the answer key ourselves, which is probably for the best. The sheep certainly think so. Number 2. Bloodletting. Got a headache? Feeling a bit feverish? Maybe a touch of melancholy? For over 2,000 years, the answer from the medical community was clear, confident, and catastrophically wrong. We need to drain some of your blood. This was bloodletting, the Swiss Army knife of ancient and medieval medicine. It was based on the theory of the 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Sickness was caused by an imbalance of these humors. And since blood was the easiest one to get to, it was the one that got let out. A lot. Doctors, or more often barber surgeons, would use a fleam or a lancet to open a vein and just let it rip. This wasn't some fringe treatment. It was the standard of care. George Washington, after catching a throat infection, was famously bled of nearly 4 liters of blood in less than a day, which almost certainly hastened his death. They were trying to cure his cold by giving him a case of severe acute exsanguination. The logic was so pervasive that people would get bled for anything from a common cold to the plague, from acne to insanity. It was the medical equivalent of hitting a broken television. Sometimes it seemed to work, mostly because the patient either got better on their own or was too weak from blood loss to complain anymore. Obviously, this skill is now less than useless. It's actively harmful. The only person who should be taking your blood is a phlebotomist with a sterile needle and a clear medical reason. not a guy with a rusty knife who thinks your chi is out of whack. We now know that blood is, important. It carries oxygen and nutrients and fights infection. Draining it for no reason is like trying to fix your car's engine by siphoning out all the oil. It's a solution that is infinitely worse than the original problem. Number 1. Trepanation. Sometimes, the best solution to a problem is to drill a hole in it. This is true for putting up a shelf, and according to our ancestors, also true for your splitting headache. Welcome to trepanation, the oldest surgical procedure known to humanity. It involves scraping, cutting, or drilling a hole directly into the human skull. Why would anyone do this? The prevailing theory is that it was to release evil spirits that were thought to cause ailments like seizures, migraines, or mental illness. Your head hurts? It's probably a demon trapped inside, banging on the walls. Let's just open a window and let him out. Archaeological evidence for this is found all over the world, from ancient Europe to Peru. And here's the truly wild part. A lot of the patients survived. Skulls have been found with clear signs of healing and bone regrowth around the hole, meaning the person lived for years after having a piece of their head carved out with a sharpened rock. This suggests the practitioners were surprisingly skilled, or the patients were just unbelievably tough. Or maybe, just maybe, the evil spirit really did fly out and the headache went away. Placebo effect is a powerful thing. Today, the only person drilling a hole in your skull should be a neurosurgeon with a medical degree, an MRI scan, and a very good reason, like relieving pressure from a brain injury. If you showed up to an emergency room complaining of a migraine and the doctor pulled out a hand crank drill, you would not feel relieved. You would feel terror. The ancient art of, let's just see what happens if we poke the brain, has been replaced by things like, Tylenol. It's a perfect example of a skill that was once considered life-saving cutting-edge medicine and is now rightly seen as a terrifyingly bad idea from a time before they'd invented better ones. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.